Hi again, friends. Maybe today's video is a little bit off topic as I will be talking about writing every day, but I think it applies to moms in general, and that's who my audience usually is. My story starts years ago when I was about 11, I think, or 12, I'm not sure. Then we were on a trip, a family trip, and my aunt took us to visit an author. She had several books written, and she was in the process of writing her biography. And so we stopped in there and she asked me if I kept a diary, and she told me to keep a diary because she said she wished she had. Now for writing her biography, it would have helped. And that inspired me. I think I'd kind of started a few times, but from about then, I think it was then for my 12th birthday, I started, and since then, which is 18 years already, over 18 years, I have written for every day of my life. Now, I'll be honest, there's a bunch of days, especially longer ago, and now sometimes too, when I'm too busy to write much, that it pretty much says usual day, had a usual day, whatever that means. But, or just schoolwork in my younger years or something like that. But I have written a diary for every year, of every day of my life, something at least. Sometimes I've gotten behind a few days, but then I've gone back and caught up, at least wrote the basics. And I've also done some sort of kind of like journaling some days. Some days I just write what we do. Other days I write my thoughts. Sometimes I've just done half a sentence. Other days I filled 7 pages. Though that doesn't happen very often, especially not anymore. Because I am a busy mom. And perhaps you're a busy mom and wondering how in the world you can fit in writing. But I want to tell you some benefits of it so that maybe I can convince you too. For one thing, I think that has maybe led me to do what I do now, the writing, the blogging, and that I love writing, and that sometimes when I write an article, I can't say that they're good articles, even if they get accepted to be published in some places. But sometimes the words just flow off my fingers, I say. I'm just writing or typing and they just flow. And I think that has to do with years of practice of writing every day. I've heard of school teachers or who recommend, and some professionals who write every day. Well, excuse the baby's playing with toys back there, so we'll let him make some racket. But then we'll just accept that for this time. But some school teachers who say to have good writers, teach them to write every day. It doesn't matter what. Just something, and eventually your brain to your fingers to whatever, it just flows. It's not always and every day that it flows, but often I get an article started in my head, and when I sit down and write, it just comes. And later I look back over it some months later and I think, well, did I really write this? This sounds kind of like an author would have written it. So I'm not saying I'm an author nor professional, nor everyone might not think that, but at least it's been easy to write. I have found, since being a mom, that it's been a blessing for me to have written so much. I found a few things I've maybe heard in studies have done about writing every day. If you want to become a writer, especially, you should make a habit of writing every day, even if it's a little bit. But even if you don't, there's something. I think it was Jordan Peterson one time, I don't know, I once in a while come across his videos on YouTube or something. Somewhere he's a psychologist or something in Canada. And he talks of how when you write things down about your life, it's like you put a map, you know what to do with it. And I've since thought about it. A lot of things that I've gone through that I wouldn't have known how to sort out. When I write them down, it's like I put them in a compartment in my mind, something organized. Okay, so this is what happened, this is what I feel, this is where it's going. It's not that my problems are solved by any means, but it helps me. I remember especially with my oldest, with my first pregnancy, all my life I've dreamed of being a mom. That's just how it is. But when I was expecting her, I don't know, my family wasn't around and I was not feeling very well, maybe not nauseous, but more like panic attacks and such. And I couldn't understand how I'd always dreamed of being a mom. and now I didn't want to be a mom, and it scared me. And so when I started writing those feelings down, it put them in perspective for me. Yes, I do want to be a mom. My feelings are just hormonal or whatever they are, but I will be happy to be a mom eventually. Didn't feel good, and that was one of those places where I saw the real benefits of having written down and sorted my feelings by that. Another thing I noticed is, as I've been reading through my old diaries, just to make sure that they'll be appropriate to pass on to my children. Most everything I leave in, but depending the situation, I would maybe scribble something out or something if I don't want my children or other people to read them someday. And it's been interesting for me noticing in my teenage years how I wrote a couple of times something down the line of, my parents think I ask lots of questions, but if they only knew how many more I do. Something about, they maybe thought I was asking too many questions, but I had so many more. I just was limiting the questions I was asking them to not be asking them too many questions. And I remember that often now when one of my daughters is a question box to the extreme. And if I didn't have that in my mind that, oh, this is what happened to me, then I wouldn't have as much patience to be answering her questions. And so I feel like that is something that has helped me be a better parent. Just seeing some of my thought processes when I was younger that I would have forgotten. But now I remember how I felt, and it helps me to know how my children feel in some situations. Right when I have my Bible time, my quiet time, I read the Bible most every day. Doesn't always happen with busy mom life, but most every day, and especially in certain seasons. Then I write from the day before a few thoughts. What we did, what happened, the basics, and if I want to sort something out or talk about something else, I write it down. So I have a whole stack of diaries, journals, and sometimes I think, well, I could pitch them, but I'm still not sorry that I did it, and I think I want to keep them for my children so that they can see some of the struggles I went through. But I'm not sorry that I did, because I feel like so much of my life I've been able to sort out much better and realize that on hard days, I am living my dream. I've always dreamed of being a mom. So my encouragement would be to moms to take a little bit of time, or to anyone else who's watching this, take a little bit of time to write down, even if it's just the tiniest bit. It'll help sort your thought processes. It'll put it into organized place. It'll teach you to write too. And there's so many benefits to it. So that would be what I would have for this week to encourage you. We'll see you in the next video.